Yay! Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. I have Jenna here with me. She's my dear, dear friend. Been friends for probably a lot longer than we think we would have been friends.
Years, I think.
Yeah, it's been a few years for sure. But hi, welcome. Yeah, say hello to us in the chat. Let us know where you're from. And then we're going to give everyone about a minute or so to jump on, and then we'll get started. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Toronto.
Ooh, we got Toronto, San Francisco, Minneapolis. Holy moly, everywhere.
San Diego.
Hello.
Yeah. I'm
Oh,
in
hello from
Boston,
San Diego.
so it's probably warmer there. Actually, it's pretty warm here today,
I think
surprisingly.
today's only like 68. It's not that warm. Well, for
So,
California standards, I guess it's not that warm.
oh, another friend in Boston. That's awesome.
Hi, Morgan.
And
I don't know if I've ever shared with you, Morgan. I used to live in Boston. That's how Jenna and I met when I lived there.
Ohio, Brooklyn,
Hello.
New Zealand.
New
Wow.
Zealand. Wow. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
Holy
what
moly.
time is it there?
Vancouver. Oh, I would love to go to Vancouver. Oh, Durham. I used to live in North Carolina too. I lived pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, you've been all over the place.
I have been. Oh, you just. Hi, we're waving back at you. All right, cool. So I'm going to kick it off. Hello, everyone. Thank you again for being here. I'm Emily. I am the community manager for Designlab. And today I have, like I said, my dear, dear friend Jenna with me. She is amazing. And she is actually going to talk to us today about how to manage our stress as creatives. I know we talk about this a lot in our community. And if you're not part of our community, it is a topic. It's a hot topic, especially with everything that's been going on in the last year. Stress kind of manifests itself in many different ways for everybody. So Jenna is here to help us with that a little bit. But yeah, if you've been here before or not, say hello in the chat, drop your LinkedIn if you want to network with each other. And as usual, if you have any questions along the way as Jenna is presenting, please toss them in the questions tab on the right-hand side. And then that is where we will be pulling questions from at the end of the presentation or during if Jenna wants to stop and answer your questions. So either way, someone's going to be looking at the questions, answering them as much as we can up until the hour, and then we will kind of tie it off at the end. So yeah, I'm going to hand it over to Jenna, let her introduce herself, and then she's going to start presenting, and then we'll get started. Cool.
Awesome.
It's all you, Jenna.
Great. Okay, cool. So, like Emily said, I will be trying to monitor the chat/questions tab, but if I miss anything, we'll get to it at the end. Multitasking is a skill that I'm trying to master still, so we'll see how that goes. All right, I'm gonna start sharing my screen for my intros in the presentation. So, let me see. Okay. Can everybody?
And then I know I'll say this at some point later on in the chat, but this is recorded. So if you know people who might benefit from this or maybe would have wanted to be here but can't, this will be recorded and uploaded to our YouTube channel. So yeah, handing it over to Jenna.
Perfect. Okay, so can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Great. So this is daily stress management for creatives, like Emily mentioned. I'm Jenna. I'm a Boston-based certified holistic nutritionist, content marketer, and I'm an artist. I also run a blog called Well Canvas. That's where I write about nutrition and wellness to boost creativity and energy. And I help coordinate social media for one of our local community fridge projects. So I'm passionate about making nutrition accessible to all as well as food. So I balance affordable nutrition counseling with a lot of other things such as full-time marketing and also my other hobbies that I mentioned above. So clearly I tackle a lot of projects at once. So I know what it's like to be stressed out, and I'm sure that many of you can relate. But before we dive into everything, a quick disclaimer and an important note. I am not a licensed medical professional, and I'm not a dietitian. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist I'm sorry, can you all hear that chat noise? Can I stop that somehow, Emily?
There could be a bell. Oh, and the bell maybe top right of your screen. There might be a bell icon where you can mute the notifications.
Sorry. Oh yeah, I just don't want everyone to be distracted by that. Perfect, thanks. Okay, cool, great. So before we dive into anything, just a quick disclaimer. Again, I'm not a licensed medical professional or a dietitian. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist via the American Fitness Professionals Association. But again, the information I provide here is for educational purposes based on my own experiences and practice as a holistic nutritionist. So all the information that I provide in this workshop is backed up by medical research and can be referenced on the research reference slide that will be in this presentation. For further reading, if you're curious, but also consult your doctor before making any lifestyle, medical, or dietary changes, or if you're struggling with your mental health or physical health. So any big changes to your life, you always want to consult with a medical professional first before making those changes. So what is stress? Stress is defined by the Cleveland Clinic as the body's reaction to any change that requires an adjustment or response. So the body reacts to these changes with physical, mental, and emotional responses. Other definitions include the word strain when defining stress, as it can put strain on all aspects of your life, including your job, relationships, family life, physical and mental health, etc. Is anybody under a lot of stress right now during this presentation? Not because of me, but in general, because of life. You can just put it in the chat if you are. Some support from everybody else. Yes. Work overload, work stress. Yes, I totally relate to that. Yes. Yep. Different kinds of stress these days. I know after the last year, especially, I'm sure that we're all experiencing new levels of stress. So much brain fog. I completely relate. And needing to be in 3 places at once. That was me all day today. Had a dentist appointment downtown, came back here. So needless to say, we all have experienced stress, and a lot of us are experiencing new levels of stress because of the last year, especially. So there are actually 3 types of stress, which is something that was new to me. When I was putting this presentation together, I learned this. There's acute stress, there's episodic stress, and chronic stress. Acute is experienced as an intermediate perceived threat, a physical or emotional, psychological. So in other words, if you're late on a deadline, your car breaks down on your way to work, that would be that kind of stress. That's acute stress. So episodic stress is stress when you experience acute stress regularly and live in a state of tension. I definitely have been there myself, so I was kind of happy to find a word for that. But an example of that is if your significant other is stressed out at work and keeps passing emotional crises to you to handle, this type of stress is linked to unhealthy habits, such as binge eating and drinking, maybe like chronic napping. That's something that I was doing for a while. But there's also chronic stress. So chronic stress is stress that wears at us over time and stems from serious life problems that may be out of our control, such as poverty, war, racism, the recent presidential election, coronavirus. I'm sure you can all relate. It also may be caused by long-term emotional problems such as PTSD from a war or from childhood. So there's 3 different types of stress. So, it goes without saying that obviously stress has a lot of negative effects on our health and our lifestyle. That goes without saying again, but some of these include high blood pressure, heart problems, headaches, digestive problems, relationship struggles, problems at work, insomnia, sleep disorders, mental health problems, you name it. There are also many other negative side effects to stress. There's probably way too many to name here. But it's a good time to note now that stress is a normal part of life. I know that we live in an age where you log on to Instagram and you see these perfectly curated lives and accounts, and their owners seem so happy, and everybody's showing you their best self. So you're a lot of the times, and I can obviously relate to this, you're comparing yourself to these perfect, happy people, but again, they're only showing you their highlight reel. It's not real. Stress is something that everybody experiences in all walks of life. You can't avoid it entirely, and that's okay. So you will always run in stressful situations. It'll always be there, but there are many ways to make them less taxing on your health and make stress manageable in your life. Social media sucks in the chat. Yeah, I mean, there are some good sides to social media, but it has stressed me out more than most things. So I can get behind that. Rosemary says, normalize sharing your worst self. I do like that. And I think there's a lot more of that happening right now too, which I'd love to see. So that said, because stress is a part of life and something that you really can't avoid, there are bound to be some positives. So to be clear, large amounts of stress are not good for you, but small amounts of stress can provide some health benefits, such as enhanced motivation to succeed and grow, improve cognitive function, and warn you of potential harmful situations. It can also promote bonding, such as when you connect with someone who understands what you're going through. It can also increase immunity, according to a Stanford University study that shows that stress hormones actually improve immunity, funny enough. Samantha says, leaving most social media has reduced negative stress for me. That's awesome. I probably should do that at some point, but it's not going to be today. But there are actually a lot of great benefits to leaving social media. A dietitian I was seeing actually recently encouraged me to read this book called Digital Minimalism. I'm not sure anybody has read it. I haven't started it yet, but I'm really looking forward to diving into that. So identifying stressors and triggers. There are many parts to identifying stressors and triggers, but I've narrowed them down to 4 parts that I find the most productive for you to learn about. So part 1 is knowing your body's stress responses. So is your heart racing? Are your fists clenched? Are you breathing more rapidly? These are all stress responses. So learn to recognize these. And then as noted in part 2 on this diagram, write them down in a journal to keep track of your stressors. You can write how you're feeling, you can know what you were doing or what occurred before the onset of stress. And then the next part is committing to the change process to how you react to stress, which I will cover in the next slide. But finally, you should accept that things are not in your control to an extent. It's easier said than done, especially with all these like pretty terrible things happening all around us. But again, stress is inevitable. So the situation you're in is somewhat unavoidable. So it's good to recognize what you can change versus what you absolutely cannot change, such as the weather, for example. There's no point in getting upset about bad weather. You can't do anything about it. So it's better to just try to accept it and learn to live with it. And again, easier said than done, but it's definitely a practice. So there's a 5-step trans-theoretical model of change. 2 researchers at the University of Rhode Island actually identified a model to change behaviors called the trans-theoretical model of change, which can help when it comes to changing how we react to stress. So for each of these 5 steps, I definitely recommend using a journal to identify stressors to keep track of your progress as you work through the steps. So step 1 is pre-contemplation. We're not yet thinking about change. We're defending bad habits. We don't feel our behavior is a problem. Step 2 is contemplation. We're aware we have habits that we need to change. We're weighing the pros and cons of change behavior. And in this step, we're more open to receiving information. Step 3 is preparation and decision. We're ready to make the change, and we are in the planning process of how to change our behaviors. Step 4 is action. So we are actively involved in changing our behaviors and making the necessary moves. And step 5 is probably the most challenging period, in my opinion. This is the maintenance period. So this is where we work to maintain our newly formed habits. It's important to note that this does not mean we're always going to be perfect. The key is to not letting slip-ups discourage our process and to get back on track as soon as we can. You will always have slip-ups in this process, or any process really, but I think the key to any kind of process or changed habit is making sure that you let one day go, let 2 days go, and get back on track. So 3 very basic steps to avoiding stress and establishing boundaries are learning to say no when it's necessary for your well-being. I think we all have been in situations where we know we should say no. It's a toxic situation, a toxic friend. It's pretty obvious, but sometimes we tend to go against our gut and participate in toxic situations, even though they're optional. Obviously, work is not optional. Sorry, I lost where I was on the slide. Sorry, so establishing boundaries and avoiding toxic situations they kind of go hand in hand. Establishing boundaries is also very important. So, learning to say no to a friend who is asking you to do something that you feel uncomfortable with. A toxic workplace, like Jeremy said. Work is not optional. You obviously haven't met my brother. Well, you know what I mean. Sorry to your brother, but and finally, staying organized. So I know a lot of us struggle with organization, but I actually have shared some organization tips on the next slide. So here are my favorite organization tips. I actually was very, very disorganized all through high school and mostly through college. My room was chaotic. I didn't know where anything was ever. And when graduated college, I was like, I really need to get this together. I can't live like this anymore. So here are some of my favorite tips. Invest in a planner. So take 5 minutes every morning or every night and write down all of your events and tasks for the day. So expect to have that 5 minutes of planning time every day. I like to do this every morning and every night. It lets me wake up feeling a little bit less chaotic. And then you can also use your phone calendar. So add every event to your calendar if you have a phone, even if it's just lunch with a friend or a phone call. You know, when you make the plan, just take the second to add it. If you don't have a phone, I would keep a little day planner on you and add it that way, just so you can keep track of every call and every event. It's so easy to forget those things, but it'll really help you have a place to look, you know, when you're making plans. And if someone's like, are you free this day? You'll be able to look at that and say, yes, I am, or no, I'm not, without getting kind of confused or jumbled or getting all your plans mixed up. You can also, with a phone, add an alert to remind you of the event a few days before so that you don't forget. And I also rely on my phone reminders right now. I have all of my plans on phone reminders. I have all my plants that I water on separate watering schedules. I have kind of a plant nut, and I would never keep these things alive if I didn't remind myself exactly when to water them. So I have reminders for every single plant, which, you know, I'm sure there's a better app for that out there, but I just use my phone reminders. And my favorite organizational tip of all is using Post-it notes. I have them literally everywhere. They're hanging on my desk, on my mirror. They're kind of all around me so that I can remember certain things and remember mantras and things that I want to just go through the day with. Who doesn't love a good Post-it moment? Do you guys use Post-it notes? I feel like I'm working from home now, and I feel like I've used them more than ever. They're all surrounding me. I'm basically covered in them. Okay, cool. By now we've discovered the basics of stress, so what it does to us, and how to be in managing it. So it's time to dive into the 5 biggest components of stress management as defined by the St. Joseph Medical Center in Kansas City. So the components are sleep, relaxation, nutrition, self-care, and self-kindness, and exercise. So I'm going to dive into each of these a bit, and the best way to attack each one. UX designer tool of choice is a Post-it. Oh, that's awesome. Information architect. Post-it notes are imperative for work and life. Wow, there's so many different fields of, I didn't even know information architect was a position. That's awesome.
Post-its rule our life.
For UX designers, yeah, I would imagine.
Yep.
So nutrition. When you're going through periods of intense stress, eating well might be the last thing on your list. However, getting into the habit of consuming proper nutrients will definitely better equip you for dealing with stress. That said, I want to say it's perfectly okay to reach for your favorite comfort foods if they bring you joy. It goes without saying that, you know, alcohol and caffeine will obviously make your stress worse, although I personally love a glass of wine or two, and I know that many of you can relate. But it is important to try to get your proper nutrients. It will only benefit you in the long run. Some things you want to focus on are eating mindfully and slowly without distractions. Focus on your chewing and the sensation of food in your mouth. There's a lot of great research out there about mindful eating. I highly suggest, you know, if you're looking to eat slower and, you know, really enjoy your food, and if you're having digestive problems or anything like that, I highly suggest looking at mindful eating and some of those practices. I'm trying very hard to do it myself. Eat the rainbow. Yeah, we'll get to that. I promise it makes sense. Be sure to get plenty of high protein in like high quality meat or lentils and beans, potassium like in bananas or sweet potatoes, and calcium in leafy greens. Many of our favorite comfort foods are comforting because they're warm. So reach to warm foods if you're feeling particularly stressed, like stews and soups and oats. Those always comfort me, and hopefully they will comfort you as well. And finally, yes, eat the rainbow. So the variety of different natural colors on your plate is actually a visual display of all the vitamins, nutrients, and antioxidants you're getting. So the more colors you can eat, the better. If you're making a salad, first of all, it'll taste better. I know a lot of us don't like salads. I totally get it. So adding in a bunch of like crunchy vegetables that are all different colors is the best way to get all your nutrients in at once. And make yourself a really decent dressing. Take, 5 minutes, research a fun dressing to put on a salad, and it can change the world for you. I don't like bland salads. I need some crunch. I need some taste. So I like salad. I mean, I like salads too, but anti-veggie since age 3, lol. It's all about how you season it, really. Vegetables, salads, you name it. So there are plenty of great foods that you can eat to help with stress. Some great ones are fruits that are high in citrus for their vitamin C content, avocados for their omega-3s, high quality proteins in the form of meat and fish. I'm personally a pescatarian, so I try to eat fish when I can, but I also will get it high protein from different lentils and beans. Drinks such as herbal teas, nuts are a great snack. Whole grains are awesome to eat. Think brown rice, whole grain bread, and dark chocolate for the antioxidants. I know that chocolate is also a great stress relief for a lot of people. Sometimes I'm just craving chocolate. Dark chocolate is high in antioxidants. It's a great treat to have. Salads make me more hungry. Yes, that people actually, I read a long time ago that people would eat salads before their meals to make them hungrier for dinner because it expands your stomach. That could be incorrect science. I have to check that. But the way that I try to combat that is I will add chickpeas, lots of high protein. You definitely don't want to just be eating vegetables in your salads because you will be hungry after. It's great to eat a huge salad with a lot of protein. That's what I try to aim for when I eat them. So sleep, 5 steps for better sleep. I mean, you've heard it 100 times, I'm sure. Sleep is crucial for pretty much any aspect of your health. It goes without saying that poor sleep will negatively affect your mental health and make stressful situations that much harder. I'm personally not great at getting enough sleep. Ever since I got a cell phone in middle school, my sleep has suffered. I'm kind of one of those, doom scrolling people at night where I'm like trying to sleep and then suddenly I'm looking at something on Wikipedia. I know you guys have been there, but I know what it's like to not be able to get sleep, but there are some easy steps to take to make sleeping a little bit better. So get into a routine and sleep at the same time every day. And I just want a disclaimer, I totally understand that this is very, very hard to do. I'm still working on it, but so yeah, get to sleep and wake up at the same time every day, or you can try sleep cycles. So there's actually this website, Sleepy Time with a dot between the ti.me, and I can repeat that later if you want, to help you figure out your sleep cycles. So when you should try to fall asleep and when you should try to wake up. So sleeping on sleep cycles can actually help you if you're feeling tired when you're waking up. It's pretty interesting. It's kind of worked for me. I think I forgot the length of a sleep cycle. I think each one's like an hour and a half or something. So you want to get a certain amount of sleep cycles every single night. But again, I can repeat that website later if you are interested in looking at it. Avoiding caffeine after noon and alcohol and tobacco before bed entirely can help as well. I know that some people will fall asleep with a glass of wine. That's actually counterproductive. Not saying I'm not guilty of it, but it is a little counterproductive. Because when you are sleeping with alcohol, you're not really sleeping, you're not getting into REM sleep. Now, not to say that you'll be able to be perfect about that every time, but try to avoid alcohol and tobacco before bed. Have a low protein, high carb snack before bed. Carbs will make you a little bit more tired before bed. What do I eat before bed? Some pretzel sticks, just anything that'll knock you out before bed. Nothing too big, nothing that's going to take a lot out of your body to digest is really the key. Reduce screen time before bed. We've all heard this. Whether it's a phone, laptop, TV, blue light affects melatonin. I was recently watching You season 2, and as you can imagine, anyone who's watched that really messed up my sleep. So would not recommend doing that. And finally, try aromatherapy. So you can get an aromatherapy diffuser or an essential oil diffuser really cheap at a lot of local shops around where you are. They sell them pretty much everywhere. I think they sell them at like TJ Maxx too. And you can use essential oils to diffuse calming scents such as lavender rosemary is a good scent, eucalyptus. Those scents will help you fall asleep at night. Chamomile is also a great suggestion, rosemary. That's a great scent. And also a great tea to have too for sleeping. So exercise is another big part of managing stress, something that is also very difficult. I have actually managed to get myself into an exercise routine, and it really seemed like it was going to be impossible for most of my life. So I think I have mastered this. I read a bunch of articles about it, and I'm really excited to share these tips. So another life tip you're probably tired of hearing about is getting exercise. And while it's true that physical activity is very important, especially when it comes to stress, it is much easier said than done. So I've compiled some tips here. Let's get into them. If you're really struggling to work out regularly, just commit yourself to 5 minutes of dedicated physical activity every single day. That's really it. It's about building a habit first and building onto it from there. I think a lot of us jump into working out and we want to do all or nothing right away, and that does not always work. It just seems exhausting and like a daunting task. So it's really important to try to create the habit first. Rather than focusing on things such as weight loss, a number on a scale, or building muscle, pay attention to how you're feeling following a workout when you first get started. It's more, I don't know your personal goals for exercise, but here we're talking about mental health and stress. So it's really important to focus on how you're feeling above all first when you start. If you miss a day of working out or you want to take a break, that's completely okay. Don't let a missed day get you off track. You're actually really not supposed to work out every single day, but I do think it's important to get some kind of movement every day, even if it's, again, a walk like Shari said. That's very important. Like, just get something in every day, even if it's 5 minutes, even if it's small. It's just great to get yourself moving around. You'll never be flawless in this. None of us are. The point is to make a habit most of the time. It's just really great for stress management. For me, I started walking every day for like a half hour at a time, but you could even start smaller than that. And then eventually, when I was in the habit of walking so much, I wanted to go faster. So I ended up jogging just because I was sick of walking slow or walking. I wanted to just like keep going. So that's really how I got into a habit of jogging. I really didn't want to jog ever, but it ended up working. So I would say try to build the habit first and then go from there. So box breathing is a simple technique that a person can do anywhere. Breathing is really important, again, to meditate and relax yourself when you're stressed. This can be done anywhere, a work desk, a cafe, but before starting, people should sit with their back supported in a comfortable chair and their feet on the floor. I'll read these steps to you. I'm not going to lie. I'm not really the kind of person that is, I can't really walk you through a breathing exercise. I'm like a little too energetic. So I'm going to read these to you. And again, this presentation will be shared. So you can definitely refer back to this after and do this yourself on your own time. But the steps are: 1, close your eyes, breathe in through your nose while counting to 4 slowly. Feel the air enter your lungs. 2, hold your breath inside while counting slowly to 4. Try not to clamp your mouth or nose shut. Simply avoid inhaling or exhaling for 4 seconds. 3, begin to slowly exhale for 4 seconds. 4, repeat steps 1 to 3 at least 3 times, and ideally repeat the 3 steps for 4 minutes or until your calm returns. I think focusing on your breathing is very, very important when you're stressed or feeling a little anxious. There's actually an entire book, I think it's called Breathe or Breath. I haven't read it again. I just heard about this like 2 days ago. It's all about the art of breathing. Some people said it was fantastic, others didn't like it, but I would definitely recommend doing some research on the book if you are interested in doing some breathing exercises. Samantha said that this method has helped me a ton with anxiety. I visualize a box when I do this, moving from point to point around a square. That's awesome. That can definitely help. Visualizing something calming, I think, is really important. So what self-care and self-kindness look like? So when you hear self-care, you might think of things such as face masks and candles. And while these things can absolutely be self-care is many other things than just pampering, again, which is totally fine, but it's a lot of things. So in general, it's treating yourself with respect and kindness. And it can look like, again, many other things. So engaging in the 4 components of stress management, nutrition, sleep, relaxation, and exercise is self-care. You may also consider doing one good thing for yourself every day, such as a chore or an errand you need to get done, or even helping out somebody else who needs a favor or needs help. Listening to your favorite music or watching your favorite movie, engaging in constructive creative activities such as painting, writing, or even plant care can be self-care. Spending time doing care-seeking activities such as speaking with a doctor, getting a massage, acupuncture, whatever you have there, like that that can be self-care. This is my favorite one. I think spending time outside in nature by taking a walk or going on a hike is a fantastic form of self-care. It really reconnects you with the earth around you. It's peaceful, it's quiet. It's a great form of exercise. You can go with a friend or be alone, really whatever you feel comfortable with. But being outside, I think, is really key to stress management. I've been trying to get outside more. I live in Boston, so we're not too far from the woods over here, but I'll go up to New Hampshire or Vermont and go on a hike with a friend, and it's really, really calming to me. So I have a scenario here that we're going to go on, and you guys can engage in the chat on how you would handle this. But you have a huge deadline coming up at work with multiple moving parts. On top of this, you have a sick child at home who needs you. How would you make the situation more manageable? See if people are typing.
Maybe while they're typing, do you want to share how you might approach the situation?
Well,
just to see if we spark any thoughts.
Here we go. We have some answers coming in.
Oh, you guys are saving Jenna.
Divide the work task into multiple deadlines. That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And you could put down in a planner if you wanted to. That's something I'd probably do. I would talk to my boss to start. That's a great point. A lot of the times people are more understanding than we actually think they're going to be. Communication really is key. Delegating or ask for help with a project. Absolutely. Ask for help. Yep. I don't go home until I finish. Well, that's a good attitude to have. That's definitely very, very motivating. But I think asking for help also would help too. Communicate the situation with an employer. Yes, absolutely. Like we just said, people are often more understanding about stress than we assume they will be. If you trust your employer, it's really always important to, communicate how you're feeling and the situations that are going on in your life. I think that really helps.
Jenna, do you have any tips for this scenario for people who may not have such an understanding manager or boss? Any way that they can maneuver around it?
Yes, I mean, I've definitely been there. I think the point about delegating the task into multiple deadlines and asking for help from coworkers is always ideal. If you have coworkers that you can ask help from, oftentimes I found that coworkers can be very understanding if they're working with the same boss, if your boss is not that understanding. So that is what I would do. I think I would communicate with people around me, even if it wasn't above me. Shannon and I have been in the same boat together. We sure have. Let go of stress around kid watching TV or being online while resting if they're not deathly ill. You can give a kid a creative project and they can go to town. Again, paint might be dangerous, but as a kid when I was sick, I would have crayons and just color and draw all day. And I think as creative people, we can all relate to that. So another stressful scenario, you keep waking up late and falling asleep during the day while working from home. On top of this, you are not feeling your best because you order takeout each day since you don't have time to cook. How would you amend this?
Oh, this one's all too real for me.
Yeah,
I was
speaking from personal experience a bit with this one. There's a little fiction added in too, though. Force myself not to take phone to bed. Yes, that's a great point. If I leave my laptop at my desk or my phone at my desk, I won't end up in bed. I think that's very key, not ending up in bed and sitting up straight. Multitask and put food in the oven while working, like sheet pan meals. Sorry. Yes, that's a great idea. Multitasking keeps me awake as well. Don't go to bed until ready to sleep. Yep. Pressure cookers are a great way to meal plan. Make a bunch of healthy meals on Sunday. Yes, I try to meal plan on weekends as well. Delivery meal plan kits are great. Those are a great option for folks who don't have time to cook or meal prepare all my meals beforehand. Yes, weekends, if you work a 9 to 5 during Monday through Friday, are a great time to meal prep. But if you don't, whenever you have maybe 2 hours off, just put them aside and do some meal planning for a few days of the week. That can make a huge difference. make meals that make a lot of food and can work for multiple days. Absolutely. If I'm really in a pinch, I'll do some vegetable fried rice on my own, or something that'll keep well in the fridge, like pasta that you can easily reheat with a bunch of vegetables as well. Keyword is try. Yes, absolutely. That's such a good point. Trying is really what it matters here. So we're going to skip that one for time, but stress management summarized here. Oh, melatonin has helped sleep quite a bit. Yes, that was helping me for a while too. I might start doing that again. Trying to avoid reaching for the phone if I wake up in the middle of the night. Yes, if I wake up, I'm like, don't look at your phone, because it'll all go down from there. I'll see one notification on my phone, and next thing you know, I'm in like a spiral. Okay, cool. So stress management summarized. Recognize and accept. Stress is a normal and unavoidable part of life, like we went over. So with both negative and occasionally positive side effects, there will always be things that you cannot change, but try to focus on what you can change when you tackle stress. And then learn to identify stress. To begin to tackle stress in a healthy way, learn your body's reaction to stressful situations. From there, keep track of these reactions in a journal, commit to the change process, and remind yourself again that some things are out of your control. So to focus on the things that are in your control. Avoiding additional stress, practice establishing healthy boundaries, oops, sorry, I just skip where I was going. What did I just do? Oh, previous, sorry. So avoiding additional stress, practice establishing healthy boundaries, avoid toxic situations, and keeping yourself organized to avoid additional stress. And then focus on the 5 components of stress management: optimal nutrition, better sleep, exercise, self-care, and relaxation. So those are the big 5 components of stress management. Try to practice these daily. And again, if you can, keep track of them in a journal so you can keep track of your progress. And it's just a great way to keep track of your feelings as well. How do you practice establishing healthy boundaries? Asked Kristen. I think the best way to establish practicing healthy boundaries is practicing saying no. I have had to do that myself, where there's something that I think would be, for example, a friend will be like, can you do this or that? And I know that I cannot take it on, but I'll say yes because it's a friend. I think being able to put your foot down and say no to smaller things can be really, really helpful. When you get to bigger situations or bigger things that you have to say no to. I think practicing saying no is key for a lot of us who always want to say yes and who always want to help our friends out. That's something that I've been trying to do a lot more of. Also, identifying when you are in a toxic situation or a toxic friendship can be kind of key. I think in your gut, you always know when you have that friend in your life who might not be the healthiest person for you. And it's really hard, but knowing when you have to distance yourself and maybe put up some healthy boundaries are really important. Another example of this would be, I used to live with a lot of coworkers, and at one point I had to be like, we can't talk about work at home anymore. This is becoming too toxic. So, trying to identify the boundary that you need to make, and then figuring out how you can take small steps to implement those boundaries, I think is really important. What if stress is induced by self-doubt and worrying about your future? I think we've all been there. I worry about my future all the time. I definitely worry about self-doubt as well. One practice that a therapist once gave to me was to every day, start a gratitude journal. So, you can buy one, but you can also just do it yourself. Every morning you wake up and list one thing you're grateful for, one thing that you want to accomplish during the day, one thing you are proud of, and then also at the end of the day, taking a minute to list 10 things you're grateful for and 10 things that you are good at. Even if it's the same thing every day, or that you repeat things every day. It's good to remind yourself of what value you bring, because I think we can so often get wrapped up in being negative about ourselves and self-doubt and negative talk that we forget what we're really good at. So I always like to try to list out the things that I'm grateful for about myself and things that I'm good at. And bullet journals, as Emily said. I've actually never done a bullet journal, but I hear those can be very helpful. Yes. So here are a few resources, apps and websites for stress management: Headspace, Happify, Calm, Pacifica, the mindfulness app, Mindshift, Talkspace. I have not used all of these myself, but I have used Headspace quite a bit, and I have used Happify as well. And these are really great resources for apps for mental health and negative self-talk and everything. So thank you and questions. Again, you can visit me at thewellcanvas.com. You can follow me at wellcanvas on Instagram, or my name, Jenna Calderara. And you can also email me if you'd like at wellbyjenna@gmail.com. I'm always open to chat. I'm more responsive on email than I am on Instagram. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out on either platform, but I will get back to you as soon as I can.
That's probably why Jenna doesn't respond to me, is because I don't email her. I text her and contact you through any way but email.
No, I answer all of your texts. So
Okay, I have a question. And I feel like this is a lot of the things that we talk about, especially in this presentation, right? It's like things that we can do, but I think it's the first step that's the hardest, right? It's like ripping off the band-aid and actually acknowledging like, oh, okay, maybe I should take care of myself, because I feel like I'm walking example. You tell me all the time, like, Emily, you need to take a vacation. Emily, you need to take time off. And what's my response to you all the time? I can't. I'm too busy. I can't, because I can't let things go. So what's your advice for anyone who hasn't built up the courage to rip off the band-aid? Because that's something that I know I've struggled with a lot, and that could be something that others here may be struggling with as well.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of myself ripping off the band-aid in situations like this, I think accountability is a big thing for me personally. So if I'm planning on, taking a leave and ripping off the band-aid and doing that kind of thing, I usually will try to tell a close friend, or sometimes, unfortunately, my social media feeds, that I'm going to be doing something, so that there's somebody there to hold me accountable and be like, well, you said you were doing this today. And like, I think the having someone else count on me has been very helpful for me to be doing things like that, or someone to be like, again, an accountability buddy. It's like when you go to the gym with a friend, that kind of thing. That's been my biggest tool for doing that and ripping off the band-aid. I think also before bed, writing down, okay, like I need to do this. I need to wake up tomorrow and I need to start doing this, and putting a Post-it note on my mirror so that when I wake up in the morning, I see it and I remind myself that I told myself I was going to do this. And you can even write it as a mantra, like, today I will do this, and say it out loud to yourself a few times in the mirror. I think that can be really helpful to motivate yourself to rip off the band-aid.
And then diving deep, you and I both know, and I'm sure a lot of people here, right? We have busy schedules. Like, there's so many things, like a list that we all have, like every single day, they're like running lists, and they carry over every, like, day after day after day. And I feel like a lot of us may feel, for lack of better phrases, crappy that we're not checking off every single box by the end of the day. What's your advice for that? Like, how would you manage those kinds of thoughts where you maybe don't like feel like you didn't accomplish anything today because you didn't check off every single box?
The number one thing that I always tell myself in this situation, because I completely relate to that feeling, is that in life you will never check off all the boxes. It's always a continuous project. You will never get everything done every day ever in your life. It's just not possible. There's always going to be something else to do. There will always be another project. It's a machine. It keeps going forward. You have to keep taking care of yourself every day and doing your work. And that has become a little bit comforting to me, because it's not, life is a continuous project. Like, it's just not, you're never going to finish it until, well, let's not go there, but it's a continuous project. Like, you will never complete all the tasks. That has been very comforting to me. To know that there's never going to be a moment where I'm sitting there and I'm like, everything is done, because I will always find something else to do. There's always a plant to water. There's always a meal to make, an exercise to do, a friend to see. Like, even when work's done, there's always something to do. It's like when you work at like a retail job, or like a bar job, or a restaurant job, service industry, and your manager's like, okay, well, you should not be standing around doing nothing at any point, because there is always something to be done. That's not to say that you shouldn't rest, because you absolutely should rest when you need it. But, there will always be something else to do.
So Shari made a comment earlier. I say no at first, but then I change my mind. And I feel like a lot of us, I know you and I definitely go through that, where we feel guilty for saying, for saying no. So then we'll like convince ourselves otherwise. How have you worked through that?
Yeah. When I say no, then I feel bad. Yeah. I mean, I would say when I was first trying to establish boundaries, I would just say no and I would end up doing the thing, which is not great. So to work through that, I think that, you know, I would say no. And if the person was persistent, I would once again be like, okay, well, again, like I can't do this. Don't feel like you ever really need to give a reason. If it's a close friend, I think that is, you know, helpful and courteous, of course. But I think it's okay to just be confident in saying no. If the person's not persistent and you're just guilting yourself, I like to make a list of all the reasons why I say no, like a pros and cons list. I know that's such a, you know, Rory Gilmore thing to do, but making a list of like why I said no and how that would benefit me, and versus if I did it and how that would not benefit me, is a great way to visualize why I'm doing the thing that I'm doing and making the choice that I've made.
Man, if you have time to lean, you have time to clean. Oh, who's heard that multiple times? Especially if you worked in service industry.
Yeah,
Holy
I
moly.
was just thinking about that earlier. Like just the keep going. Like what are you doing standing around?
Okay, going back to journaling. So, you know, you mentioned writing down something, at least, you know, a few things a day to remind yourself of, you know, what's good about you, right? And I feel like a lot of us, when we have opportunities to even talk about ourselves, we're like, oh, talk about ourselves, we're a little bit shy, right? We're like, I have nothing good to say about myself. So what would you tell someone to encourage them to like kind of dig deep, and like they really don't need to dig that deep to like find something good about themselves, but like how can they start actually kind of flipping the mindset about just how they look at themselves?
Yeah. So I actually went through this pretty recently with a dietitian I was seeing, and I was talking about like negative self-talk, and she said, "What would you say to a friend who was going through something similar? Like if your friend came to you and said, 'I'm not good at anything. Like everything I do sucks,' you would obviously be like." No, like you're good at all these things, and list out all these things. So flipping your mind to be how would you talk to a friend has really helped me with negative self-talk. I would never talk to my friend and be like, you're right, you like suck at everything, and I mean, you should just give up. I would be like, these are all the things you're good at. So recently, when I've been trying to get this exercise in my head, when I've been like, you know, in that mindset where I feel like I'm doing nothing right, I'm like, what would my best friend say? You know, if I said this to her, she would point out these things right here. So that definitely helps, that flipping mindset.
Definitely. Cool. Well, I think we can wrap up in a little bit, but is there anything else you'd like to share with the group? You know, like even just like quick tips, like in the moment. Maybe I think that was a great scenario, you know, in the moment, like for things that change so quickly, you know, and like things that you don't expect. Cause, you know, like you and I are planners, and I'm sure a lot of us here, especially for UX design, we're planners. We think so far in advance that we psych ourselves out for sometimes no reason. Any kind of like quick coping mechanisms that, you know, someone can reach for if they're just in that moment and they don't know how to react or respond.
What is the moment specifically when you're psyching yourself out, or you're
Like if like let's say like you had a plan and you know and things are going, all of a sudden plan just blows up, like it just,
yeah.
you're like, oh my god, like what do I do now?
Yeah. There was this quote from, I don't even remember. It was probably like a reality TV show that I saw on like TLC or something. But it was like nothing ever goes. I can't remember where I saw this, but it was like nothing ever goes as planned. Like it'll never, like the plan will never work out the way you think it will. And so that's another one of those like mindset shifts where again, like the project never being complete, like life's a continuous project. Like nothing will really ever go completely as planned. So failure and things going sideways is inevitable in a lot of situations. I think, you know, giving yourself a little bit of time to be upset and be mad, because you're absolutely allowed to feel that way and frustrated, and taking a walk or giving yourself a day is necessary and very healthy to be able to jump back into the project and pick it back up. Again, like it's a work in progress. Everything is. This will always happen. We recently ran into a project with the community, or a problem with the community fridge project, where we had to remove one of the fridges because the building's landlord, the new landlord, didn't want the fridge there. And someone in the group was like, listen, this is not the last time we're going to run into this problem. Like this is going to happen again. So, you know, how can we like be better going forward? You know, this is a learning experience. This is going to happen again. Like let's be mad for a few minutes, but then let's like pick ourselves back up and try to figure out how to get through this.
John asked a really good question. How would you make yourself get started on a task when stress is preventing you from approaching it? I know I'm 1000% guilty of that.
Yeah, that is something that oh my gosh, I do that all the time. When you're just looking at the screen and you're like, I don't even know like where I would start on this. I try to start as small as possible, the smallest part. So creating the doc that you need, for example, the layout, formatting the layout. I know that's such a, like on that SpongeBob episode where he's like writing that letter and he just writes the header. I always think about that when I do that. Like it's like the smallest part of the project, but getting started on that so that you have like a starting place, no matter how small, has been really helpful for me. Because I totally understand, like, even trying to put yourself into the mindset of thinking about how to do a project can be so difficult. So again, starting small, creating your format, you know, looking through the project plan and seeing like what you can tackle in like a half hour first. I think that's the hardest part, but the easiest way to start it is to start small.
What Jenna said is exactly what I did in like the last week. I had been sitting on something because I'm a pro procrastinator like everyone else here apparently. That was me. And for the last month there had been a project I'd been sitting on and it just needs to get done and time's ticking, and basically all I did was had to open the Google Doc, write a header, and now I actually have about 5 pages in. So it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So it does work. Starting small and just kind of ripping off like even the corner of a band-aid is progress.
No, it really is. So true.
Oh man, cool. Well, yeah, I think we're good to wrap up. So, you know, like Jenna said, like, and you know, we'll share this deck. We'll put it as a link in the description box in the YouTube on the YouTube upload when that goes live tomorrow. So feel free to share. Hopefully, everyone found this helpful. You know, just a little bit, even if it just gave you a little bit more courage to approach stress in general. I know, you know, for me, I'm an overworker. I'm a workaholic, and that's a horrible term that I know we shouldn't say. But and Jenna has known me, so like she's known me for a long time, where she knows that she needs to like rip me away from like everything that I'm doing. So yeah,
Yeah.
cool. All right. Well, if anyone doesn't have any more questions, thank you so much for being here. Thanks, Jenna, so much for putting this together. You know, sharing this with us. I'm sure. Hopefully, everyone had some good tips, or took away some good tips. But yeah, reach out to her on
For watching and
email. We'll include that as well in the YouTube description. So if you want to reach out to Jenna, if not, you know, just follow her on Instagram. She has some really great food posts, very comforting foods. Lots of great comforting looking foods, and Jenna has definitely inspired my appetite and my palate recently.
Oh my gosh, that's so nice of you. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
So thank you so much again for tuning in.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Jenna. We'll talk to you all
Bye.
soon. Bye.